How has the coast changed since Katrina?
Well, without a doubt, I mean, we have fewer homes available. Affordable housing, I mean, affordable housing was an issue before the storm, and it's a huge issue now. So, I mean, of course, the housing issue is probably the biggest thing. Homelessness is it was a problem before the storm, very critical now. Mental health issues, very critical. So, I mean, right offhand, I mean, those are three things that have really changed. And of course, a lot of what we had in terms of family entertainment and beautiful places to come and go are gone.
In terms of the disappointments, you talked earlier about the role of the federal government just needing to provide more money in the state government and the way that flows. Are there other things about the role of government, even now, 2 years out? How could government play a more positive role in getting people restored here 2 years out, federal or state or local?
I think, without a doubt, is listening to the people on the ground. You know, we try to, again, convene a meeting when we learned that the governor's office was looking at the possibility of building what they were calling housing resource centers. And so some of my colleagues who are EDs of long-term recovery committees says, well, that sounds like what we're doing. Doesn't it make sense for them to put them right where we are? And we said, sure it does. So called a meeting of the governor's staff who were here to say this is what we want to talk about because we hear that you're going to build these, and we want you to hear about what the EDs, what long-term recovery, just what I explained, this process, what they do and who they serve. We had one meeting, and basically at the end of the meeting they said, don't call us, we'll call you. And we haven't heard from them since. And I don't know if these housing resource centers are moving forward or not, but I mean, that's an example where I don't think that they took very seriously what the people in that room said, and how they could help these agencies on the ground do their work and support them. And so it was all like, when we started talking about, well, you know, if the governor puts money into these housing resource centers, they're going to be run by the governor's office. And I mean, the LTRCs were just saying, well, that's okay, you know, as long as we can have an office there. At that point, it was like, you know, where are we going to be? Where would we be housed? Would you help pay for our utilities? You know, operating costs is what they were concerned about at the time. So it's that sort of thing where I think that the state government, the federal government, needs to listen to the people on the ground that are doing the work and support the agencies on the ground that are doing the work. And you know, and I just don't see that happening. I think that Red Cross has come a long way. I was very upset with them right after the storm. Because I was operating the homeless, I was coordinating the Open Doors Homeless Coalition. When the Red Cross shelters started to, what do they call it? Where they start to consolidate. When they start to consolidate the Red Cross shelters, they were calling me to say, there's some people in our shelters who were homeless prior to the storm, and therefore, when we consolidate these shelters, they can't go to the next shelter. And we're putting them out. They were putting them out. And I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I'm going to shame them. I called WLOX. WLOX was interviewing these people who were being put out. And it was incredible to me. And so here, me and this woman who runs a food bank were scrambling to find a place for these people to live. They cannot no longer stay in Red Cross shelters because they had been identified as being homeless prior to the storm. So I'm calling the pastors and I'm saying, yeah, do you have a place for them to stay? And our board president said, well, look, they can sleep in my pews if they're just, you know, willing to do some work, you know. We put some of them in a compromised setting in a church where that had been damaged. There were no locks on the doors. They got robbed. But I was so upset. And so in my last days at Back Bay Mission as the coordinator for the Homeless Coalition, I was trying to get as far up as I could with Red Cross. And I knew that I couldn't do anything about the people who had been put out, but I was saying to them, I so finally I got a hold of it. It was really just a public relations person. And I'm saying to her, what happened? And I said, and I want you to know that they gave these people 24 hours notice to find a place to live. And there are no homeless shelters. The homeless shelters were decimated here. And she said, oh, well, that's what we always do. And I said, well, that's what I want you to do differently next time. I was so upset. But, I mean, it's just so, like, well, I mean, I know that things are very different now, but I just remember that. And the other wonderful thing was that when I went into this place where they were closing the shelter, the workers there were the ones, you know, the volunteers who came in, who were so worried about these people. I mean, not the people, the administrators, I guess, were just setting the rule, but just saying, please, you know, we know that they have to leave, but please help us find a place for these people to live. And, you know, they came to know them, they came to love them, you know, and so the workers there were really concerned about the fate of these homeless people. And, but I think maybe I mentioned this. I mean, I could go on and on with problems, but homelessness is critical. And I just got a call the other day about a family who, the mother and her 2 children are living in a hotel room. And the mother, and so, you know, we get calls like this all the time, and so do people on our staff, so do our board members, and because there are no shelters. The way they're handling it is they're giving them money to get them out of town because there isn't any place for them to stay. So homelessness is very critical. It was, like I said, right after the storm, and it just seems to be getting worse because people are on the verge of homelessness. There are people who are trying to make do with the salaries they had, and the increased cost of living down here, the increased cost of rent, has people this far away from being homeless. So the homelessness problem is something that's gotten definitely worse. The wonderful thing is about just STEPS is that it's brought together all of these organizations that are doing advocacy work in one form or the other. I mean, many of them are also doing direct services. But to look at where we can work together on certain issues, and I think everyone knows that, you know, I think one of our biggest successes was getting the governor to agree to move so that phase 2 funding went from $50,000 to $100,000 for people with flood damage, not wind damage, but those people. So I mean, I think that was huge, and it was because all these organizations came together. But it's helping all the organizations see where they have common ground around issues for recovery and working together on those so that we're not working in silos on those issues. And so it's bringing together people so that we can throw ideas around, think through strategies on how to address issues around affordable housing, human rights, economic justice, environmental justice, which is great. Sharing resources, like when someone has a trainer in town saying, okay, let's co-sponsor this event and bring as many people together around this event. So that, I think, has been great. And just knowing that we're not alone, you know. We had a meeting once and I saw some people in the group and I thought, I never thought they would be a part of this event, and they're there. So it's just people in the community, even though they might not be able to speak out publicly for what STEPS is trying to do, and they're saying, we just support so much what you're doing, and how can we support you, and how can we help you? Because there are people in the community, and they care about the community. So I think that has been one of the most wonderful thing about STEPS, and it's challenging to work in coalition. It's, you know, it's challenging sometimes just to work with one organization, with one board, but we're learning through these challenges, and we're learning how to work better together and how to listen to one another and how to just how to partner in ways that we've never partnered before. So I think STEPS has just begun. I mean, in terms of what we're going to be able to do to help the community recover, and I think you're going to see STEPS bloom.